Welcome to the Click, Brand and Beyond podcast. I am Nisha Prakash.
And I am Anup Kurup.
Let's discuss the campaigns, strategies, and tactics that makes marketing effective for small businesses in India.
We bring you the best practices to help you grow your brand and business using the latest tools and trends. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Click Brand and Beyond. I have Nisha and I have Sajju Jain. Sajju is a friend and I've known him for a while. And he's a global board member of the Harvard Alumni Association. And he's also a serial entrepreneur. And he mentors startups worldwide. So we'll have a very different perspective from Sajju about entrepreneurship, businesses, growth, and all the other things that we talk about, the beyond part of CBB, right? So, Nisha, over to you. As usual, I'll try to talk less, but it doesn't happen. But let's try.
Good luck,
Let's try.
Nisha.
Yes,
Try
there
to
is
keep
always
Anup
hope.
as contained as possible.
No, but the good thing is whatever he says actually has a lot of value. So it's a good thing listening to him. And today we have you as well. So Anoop, what are we going to talk about it? I came across this brand called Nykaa, and I found a Nykaa in a different part of India selling the same kind of things, but the crowd was different, looking at different things. So certain brands do it very well in New Delhi, Gurgaon, in Delhi NCR where I live. And there are certain brands who do really well in Bangalore, where both of you live. So what do you have to say? I mean, let's just look into it and unpack it.
I actively avoid Nykaa and all the other stores, obviously. But it's a great story, right? You have a brand which is an aggregator. Now they have their own products apparently, but they started as an aggregator, and I think the reason they grew so fast is because they were able to penetrate the tier 2, tier 3 markets, which was usually underserved. Right? There's a problem of underserved markets in India too. And we also have a problem of products being not accepted nationally. So there are regional preferences available. Then we have an issue of inability to differentiate your products. Then we have a problem of, the products being too niche, therefore too expensive sometimes, because not everybody can afford it. Although we are growing as a country, but our average earning potentials are still fairly low, or rather average earning is still pretty low. But that also comes back, and we have a wide spectrum of people, right? Because we have products, we have latest cars and bikes being sold in Malappuram and Jalandhar, right? And we have the best of the best luxury items being sold in Delhi NCR region, and we have the cheapest of the cheapest products being manufactured and sold in India and being exported to Africa. So it's not a single thing, right? But that's what I wanted to ask Sajju too. Nykaa an aggregator, Amazon an aggregator, Flipkart an aggregator, right? Who are the producers? And we know the producers now. There are a few of them, but they're too niche. For example, pre-recording, we have a lot of fun and a lot of discussions. One of the things we were talking about is boots and watches, and how some niche companies are making lifetime guarantee products, that they are legacy products. You can pass it on to your kids. And even candies, how there are companies making toffees and candies which are from purer ingredients, etc. So my question to you is very simple, right? You have the niche products which is obviously not affordable by the masses, but they last a long time. How will these companies ever manage to grow? I mean, what is again, taste, style, trends, all these factors impact many of these fashion and clothing and wearable products, right? What do you think they will do or they can do to kind of appeal to a larger audience and grow?
I think when you look at growth, especially of these new age products, helps to look back at history a little bit and kind of get a sense of where this all started from. If you look at 20 years back, 15 years back, there was no market for these products. India was opening up as an economy. Wealth was just starting to come in. The middle class was basically, starting to kind of we started having a very distinct, clear upper middle class segment that started emerging. And more importantly, what happens is you need to see a shift in mindsets. And that usually takes from one generation to another generation. And we've now seen the emergence. Our generation was the Gen X, at the millennials, and now you have Gen Z and then the Gen Alphas. So each generation you're seeing, as our economy has grown, as the big picture, right, has improved, there is now demand that has started coming up. For our generation, the demand was we wanted durability and we wanted value for money, right? Value for money was very important. Why am I paying X this price when I can get something that gives me the same functionality for half the price. And that was our mindset. When you have a new generation come in, they look at things different. Legacy products that you can pass on from one generation to another generation is a very recent evolution. As you see India grow as an economy, and it's all connected to that big picture, right? As we grow as from a low income country to a middle income country, and hopefully to a, an upper middle kind of bracket, the demand for high quality products, niche products will kind of boom. You just have to be at the right place at the right time and ride that wave. The benefit for a consumer product company in India is that we have this massive population. We have the world's largest population, right? And you're going to see every strata of society demanding the same items. Everybody wants to have a mobile phone. Everybody wants to have a shoe. Everybody wants to have clothing. So as the economy grows, you'll start seeing layers of products being offered for each strata. And as we become more prosperous, the demand for each strata is going to kind of grow. And all you need to do be is consistent. I'm trying to remember, there's a saying that says, for local businesses, winning is to show up consistently. Right? So that consistency of being present in the market, offering a product that has the same high standard, that consistency is the secret to growth and success. It's as simple as that. There's no need to make it any more complicated.
Valid points. Ajubit is oriented or design-oriented manufacturing hub since times immemorial. And I think a lot of founders now and a lot of artisan quality products that are coming up, even if they are high-tech or even if they are of modern use, they derive their inspiration from that particular essence of building products, and which is a good thing. And as we see India moving forward into the future, but at the same time embracing their roots, I think this market is only going to grow, considering everything else and considering the political, socio-cultural movement that we are in the middle of. So that is definitely one thing, and which also means that as a founder or as a entrepreneur, this is a very good quality to tap into while we are building things, and through like the Make in India, and while we are developing or reviving that entire manufacturing manufacturing capability within India. How we are going to market it is an interesting, it's going to be an interesting phenomenon. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring that on the table. You were saying something, Anup?
I was saying, see, from a market perspective, the growth of the market will be dependent on how the economic growth happens, right? And demand will, of course, increase. But then I'm talking about a niche business. I'm being a little more specific about it, right? Let's say a business that is manufacturing leather bags, and there are a bunch of them in India now, craftsmanship and all that. And let's say everyday bags, travel bags, and all your messenger bags and all this stuff, right? And you have competition, of course. And there is a limited number of people who can afford that right now. That numbers may grow over a period of time, 10, 15 years, but a business cannot wait for that, right? They have to sustain themselves. Every year they have to do better than at least the inflation. And that is 10% growth at least, right? How do you manage it in such an environment? Because again, India, one thing that happens is if a product becomes successful and it doesn't have something which is, let's say, a barrier to entry, either innovation or some sort of machinery or something, others will very, very quickly replicate that. So your competition increases rapidly. How do you sustain? How do you grow?
So I'll put it this way, right? Number one, it starts with having clarity about what you stand for, right? There's a rush for scale on one end, but you don't get to scale without clarity. And I always seem to ask the question to myself and to a lot of the startups that I mentor, why do you want to scale? Is it scaling just because I have to grow? Or is there a purpose to scaling? Having that clarity is very important. So I would go back and say, you are a niche brand, you want to grow. Why do you want to grow? I'll give you an example. In luxury products, there are a lot of companies that have started manufacturing entry-level luxury products, all right? And I'll give you an example. This might shock people who are listening to this. Can you take a guess how many watches Rolex manufactures?
I know there's a wait list of 6 years right now, 7 years right now. So very few. And it's an artificially created demand, right?
It is artificial, right? I don't remember the exact figure, but it's something like 1 million watches. You can look this up. I might be off. It might be 100,000 watches. but it's a huge number of watches. And the more people who look into luxury, who are really serious users of luxury products, don't own a Rolex. They go for a lot of other brands. Audemars is another brand, people love it. So it's a really good, high quality brand. So people who are serious about luxury products don't go for a Rolex. Same way I would say is, if you look at the contrasting picture on the other end, there's Hermes, right? And Hermes will manufacture a very low quantity. It's a true mark of luxury, like it's scarce. And I think that's where it comes to me. Like if you're making a niche product, let's take an example. Let's say that you are making a particular type of regional clothing. There's a particular identity to it. I'll make it even more specific. It's used only in weddings. So people would make a very high quality wedding dress that's suitable to your local area. Is there going to be a finite demand? Yes, of course. But if you're making enough to grow your business to beat inflation, that's not a lot of growth. Even if it's a double digit, right? 12% growth. For a niche business, let's say that, including the wedding season, I make 100 dresses, right? I don't need to make 112 dresses next year. I just need to factor my cost. Am I growing the cost of what I'm selling? Does that go up by 12%? Guess what? Some of it is just your raw material cost. Right? So scale for the sake of scaling is not the right way to grow, especially for niche businesses, especially for small businesses. I would say what you have to do is you have to grow slowly, but don't break anything. If you see the startup culture where you take venture capital money, it says grow fast, fail fast. And the fail fast is let things break. That is exactly the opposite for small businesses. Small businesses don't break anything, but grow consistently, grow slowly, don't break anything. So it's that consistent growth that is based on the values of your brand. That's how you are able to kind of keep doing this year after year after year. When you name a brand, right? For example, we talked about Nika. I don't use Nika. I'm not the typical consumer for Nika brands. But I would ask you, both Nisha and you, if I said Nika, what is the image comes to your mind? You said aggregator. Aggregator is what I heard a lot, right? But if I say, what does the brand stand for? Can you tell me what it would stand for? Nisha, you're on mute.
So Nika is a poor man's Sephora. It's the same thing. It's just that Sephora was
It's sad for Nika that you're using another brand to describe it.
But it is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, but if I don't know what a Sephora is, sorry. So what is a Sephora?
So Sephora again is like it started in US and it's one shop where you can find the makeup and personal care and just generally makeup of all the brands. So from Dior to like a New Age, a Body Shop to, I don't know, like all the brands. It's just in one place.
I'll make it simpler. When we say brand is, it's how people kind of describe you when you're not in the room, right? So if I said, for example, Volvo, what does Volvo stand for?
You're talking about positioning, right? The Volvo stands for safety. The safest
safety. The big thing about Volvo is it stands for safety. So if there's no way for you to describe a brand in that very clear terms of a benefit or a value to the consumer of that brand, you're missing something. For example, when I talk about, say, something like Ponds, right? It's a very staple brand in India, and for all of us, there's a certain punchline from Ponds that comes straight to our mind, right?
Googly woogly
whoosh, right? So I mean, it may not even be a word.
That.
It's not even something. I just said it, and you instantly.
Yeah, it's a jingle rang up that you remember.
It's a jingle, right?
I don't remember that. I don't even know. I was just thinking what.
Ponds is that winter cream brand, white bottle. It's I don't know if you don't remember it.
No, it's not that.
So think of it. Cadbury's, for example, right? At least for me, Cadbury's is still the girl running towards the cricket pitch.
Ground. Yeah.
What's the punchline for Cadbury's? Right? It's like, okay, listen, when you think of something sweet, think about Cadbury.
Coca-Cola, Open Happiness,
Coca-Cola, and all that. Right? So I think these niche brands start to build that kind of following, that cult following. I recently saw an outline of a Coca-Cola bottle on a wall, and people instantly were like, this is a Coca-Cola bottle.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they had, there's an interesting story behind it.
Yeah, there's a very interesting story about how that bottle design came into, and, there was a brand, there was a brief given for designing of the bottle. But what I'm saying is this, that brand is what, is how people describe you when you're not in the room. And can you we just described a bunch of brands, right? It doesn't matter how big you are. Can you describe your brand? Can you make it so ubiquitous that when I say googly woogly whoosh, what's happening in your head? Kuch meetha ho jaye. What's coming? What's the brand that comes into your head? And if you make your brand that, the demand for it will definitely grow up. So your question is, do you want to supply the full demand, or do you want to be like Hermes, keep the demand limited and keep your quality, keep your values? And again, this is a much deeper conversation, but I'd say, what does your brand stand for is about
This is the
values. What are your
controversial part.
values?
Sajju, there will be a controversial part of this because we have had this conversation sometime earlier too. Brand memory of the brand, positioning, jingles, and all these things came up in these various conversations that we have had in the past. Right? The interesting thing is, one question comes up: ish business, let's say a watch business or a footwear business, and they are priced well, so they are not bleeding money for sure, right? But in these businesses, many a times what is happening is you have limited funds, resources are limited. So again, right? I mean, we have had answers also for this, wherein people say, be creative, right? Doesn't matter how creative you have, you still need to have reach. And reach costs money today because there are limited number of platforms which control the narrative now, right? So if you don't have the money, can you have the reach? So sorry.
No, you finish your thought.
I'm
You
just
finish your
finishing
thought.
this, right? Of course, ambition matters and all that, right? My customers might be in 20 different cities in India. How much should I reach? In jitni chadar utna pair phailao. Is that what we are saying? So Anisha, would you?
Anup, there's one thing that I want to bring. So when you're saying about the brands like Ponds or Cadbury's, and you're able to recall that with the jingle or with that tagline, we also have to remember that was a TV age, and these ads were running on a loop throughout the day with each and every program. But today, when we are in digital age and we are consuming the content mostly solo and on our phone, honestly, the way we scan and the way we kind of scroll, it's very, very difficult to make a dent in or grab the attention. You ask any child today, they will not know, or even I don't remember personally, leave other people. I don't remember any ad making this kind of this impression on my mind. I cannot recall of any product which has made this kind of impression. So then what happens?
Fair point. I would say in the age of social media, how do you kind of build your brand up? I'll still go back to my first point of consistency. No matter which brand you are, no matter which channel is being used to distribute it, to create awareness, market it, sell it, consistency across all this is very important. But to Anup, your point about I have limited resources. Well, one thing that you need to have with limited resources is discipline. It's a very important point that's very rarely spoken about. I wish I had $1 million to promote my new brand. How many would love to kind of, that statement would resonate with a lot of people. I wish I had $1 million. Wish I had $10 million, right? You don't. You have 50,000 rupees. What are you going to do with it, right? Creativity is easy to say, but I would say more importantly is, do you have a discipline? Okay, and where that discipline comes on is you're starting from scratch. Let's just assume you have absolutely no idea about what's going to resonate in the market. Do you have the discipline to launch, say, 2 or 3 ads and do like an A/B test and see which one resonates? Then, based on what resonated with your audience round, do the next round, do the next round. It's that consistency of doing these experiments and tweaking it little by little till you absolutely hit the bullseye. I think the example I've used many times when we've all had our conversations is, imagine you're starting off in a dark room and you're supposed to kind of, shoot and hit a bullseye somewhere. Guess what's happening? You're completely in the dark and you got to find a bullseye. So you just randomly, you're shooting from one direction to another. And suddenly you hear a tuck. It means you hit the target, but you've not hit the bullseye yet. Because at the center of the bullseye is like a metallic plate, and you're going to hear a gong, like a tung, you're going to hear that sound, right? So I start off with just shooting randomly in every direction, then start narrowing it. When I hear a tuck, okay, now I'm at least hitting the target. And then I start refining it till I hear that tung, the gong goes off, and I've hit the bullseye. That takes discipline to do. So if you have a disciplined approach and to figure out what resonates with your audience, and you're consistently on message, your product is consistent with what it delivers, right? Then you are going to grow, you're going to be successful. We can add a lot of layers to it, but I think this is more of a foundational thing. If you don't have this, everything else on top of it is not going to matter.
I love that word discipline. And sometimes we totally confuse it because we call it execution, consistency, and so many confusing words, right? But discipline, right? Simple. Can you get up? For example, okay, let me give a counterpoint to the question I asked, right? Yes, it is limited. It is controlled by a few platforms, etc. But it's also cheaper. It doesn't cost as much money, time, and effort as creating a TV ad. All you need is a mobile phone and just the bravery or the courage, right? To turn the phone around to your face and say something or do something, right? And the potential for virality exists. So that, it's a matter of time. If you do 2 videos every day, for example, 15-minute videos or 5 seconds videos or whatever that is, one of the days, one of the videos is going to get hit. And you're improving. It's not just about randomly,
having that discipline to do A/B tests, right? Like having that what's working, what's not working, being analytical about it, being systematic about it. That's super, super important.
Done. No, understandable, right? And thanks, Sajju, for bringing in such wonderful points that it's not about the amount of resources, but it's about how you deploy them. It's about how you focus on things. It's about not being overambitious and not looking at bigger competitors and saying, I want to do that, but understanding where you are and how you want to grow and why you want to grow. Thank you for that, Sajju. Wonderful. We will continue this conversation, but with a different topic in mind. Nisha, over to you.
So my biggest takeaway from this entire conversation is, of course, the discipline. And I like that word, the usage of that word, because again, as you said, we have called it so many things. But ultimately what it comes down to is being consistent, which is actually discipline. And yeah, I think it was a great episode. But the discussion is not complete yet. So we will have to do another episode on this.
All right. So let's just catch up with Sajju for the next episode. Bye.
And that is it for this episode. I'm Nisha Prakash. You can find me at LinkedIn and my website nishaprakash.com.
And I'm Anup Kurup. You can find me at LinkedIn and my website anupkurup.com. We will see you in the next exciting episode of Click, Brand and Beyond.